The layer palette for many people is a kind of a difficult concept to grab. Now, I've got my layer palette and I've got it to the bottom here, and I'm going to show you how I work with the layer palette. Now, one of the things to think about when you work with the layer palette is that it's almost like a sheet of acetate, so it's a transparent sheet. So if I were to turn off all the layers here, I end up with this transparent background. Now, this is one of the things that might confuse people when they first work with Photoshop, and I don't really care for this pattern either. Is this checkerboard effect really says that this layer is transparent, and now if you were to print this, the checkerboard wouldn't show up, or if you were to email it, it wouldn't show up, or it just doesn't. It only shows up in Photoshop. But I tend to create a layer with an opaque color on it, and I normally usually start with white because that's the type of paper I would be printing out on, or whatever my project color would be. I would start with the white. For this particular situation, we're dealing with the final business card Photoshop file, so I know that project required a white background. Now I can turn the groups back on here inside Photoshop, and those will also expand. Now, as you notice here, as I expand these particular layers, I can come over here to the scroll bar and scroll back and forth on this palette to my heart's content. But, you know, if you're going to expand them like that, go ahead and move it up to the top of the screen. Come over to this little triangle at the bottom and just give it a yank down to the bottom. Now, I tend to, rather than keeping it wide like this, I want to see what's going on below there. So I'll make it just as big as I need to, so it will show all of the layers here. And if I'm, for instance, working on that image, rather than working on this other side, I might move the layers to over here where I don't really have a lot of important stuff underneath them for the moment. But I tend to move these around quite a lot, or move the layer palette around quite a lot. Or if I'm using one of the more specialized palettes to the side, I would move them to wherever I'm working at. Now, what have I got here in the layers palette? I've got this group called copy, and I've got a group called graphics, and then I just have a simple layer called background. Now, you'll see that you can click those arrows to collapse and expand those groups. Groups are just really a way of organizing similar content. I would advise you to definitely create groups and name them. Don't spend a whole bunch of time doing it because you could spend all day naming these things. So just make it quick, easy. When you use the type tool, it'll actually generate the name of the layers for you. So that wasn't myself that did that. It was just simply an automated tool inside Photoshop. Now, for instance, here I've got a layer that's supposed to say logo, but we had a little bit of a typo there, and another little typo below that for block. So that's kind of showing you the amount of attention I'm kind of giving to the names. But I can look at them and I can simply see that they're what they're suggesting. But spend time and try and get it to at least look like the word. Now I can also drag these, and you can see that I can do the different stacking orders with them. I can take different layers and drag them into other groups and just kind of drop them. Now you'll notice right here when I did that, we lost some information to the side. Now if I go over here to my layer, there's also these little eyes along the edge. If I press the one where it says, well, let me go ahead and press this little eye right here beside block. You'll see that that type still disappears. So if you remember, the type was white. We had a block of color. Now let's go ahead. I'm going to rename this layer. I can go up along the top here to a little flyout menu. There's a lot of different options here. There's actually a layers property option right here. If I were to click on that, it'll open up the layer properties for me. And you can see there's the name. Let's go ahead and we'll call that red block. Okay, and in in real time it'll go ahead and rename that null layer. Now I might want to keep that color coded as well, and I can go ahead and assign a color code right here. I'm going to go ahead and assign red just for the sake of it, and you'll notice that it puts a little red mark to the layer there, so it can help you categorize certain information in the layers palette. So we've got it set, rename to red block, color red set up for the category, and press OK. And now you can see that's been updated. Now the reason that our copy hasn't come back on the side there is that we also have a stacking order going on here. And the information that we need to show up on the side, if I were to pull that red block back down to the bottom, back into the graphics folder, you'll see that the copy reappears here. Now if I look back in the copy folder, and I come down about midway here, there's a little eye. You can see where that information is stacked. Now it's all going to show up according to the stacking order of how it's arranged. You can see we've got a little bit of extra information here for a previous card. Go ahead and turn that one off. And that's how to kind of restack and move information around on your layers palette.